Hello, y'all. Welcome to Wandering Words. And today we're going to be talking about Playdate. This is a movie with Kevin James and Adlon Richardson. Kevin James, for me, has always been really funny. I loved him personally in the show King of Queens. My mom used to watch that show all the time, and he had me dying pretty much every episode. And as far as Adlon Richardson, I know he plays in the show Reacher. I watched a couple episodes of him and or of the show, and it was pretty good. I just never seemed to like latch on the TV shows like that, so I kind of fell off around the third episode or something like that. But he's a pretty solid action actor, and so with Alan Richardson and Kevin James mixed in together. I believe this came out pretty good for me. Honestly, I'm looking at the reviews or the Rotten Tomatoes, and it says 18%. That's like pretty bad as far as Rotten Tomatoes go. But for me personally, I would probably maybe like a 60 something. It wasn't like that funny, but it was funnier than most comedy movies that come out nowadays. So I'm surprised it's this low. Um, but as far as the roles go in this movie, Alan Richardson plays ex-military guy that was just kind of hiding out in the same suburban area as Kevin James' character, which is Brian. And Alan Richardson plays Jeff in this movie. So Brian is going to the park with his son Lucas, which is played by Benjamin Pajek, I believe how you say it, Pajek. And so they go to the park because Brian got let go of his job as a forensic accountant and is just spending the day with his stepson Lucas. He's trying to get the hang of this dad thing. He's kind of embarrassed of Lucas, but is more because it's kind of projecting how he is in his environment where he was at his job, and he's kind of seen as the loser, so I believe he's kind of projecting those feelings onto him, the son Lucas. So Lucas is in love with Brian as far as him being his dad, so it's kind of cool to see the roles reversed. The son isn't being rebellious, it's more the dad that's being, I wouldn't say quote unquote rebellious, but he's not really too fond of him at first. And so they go to the park. Kevin James is sitting around. They come across this mommy mafia, which is played with Isla Fisher and just another group of women that are at the park. They're called the Mama Mafia, and they're basically there to watch like predators and just kind of protect the kids. They're like the cool group of the playground, because they're stay-at-home wives or whatnot. But anyways, so Lucas is uh, running around, and I believe Brian and Lucas stumble across Jeff, which is Alan Richardson's character, and CJ, which is played by Banks Pierce. Sorry. So Banks Pierce and Alan Richardson are played as the father son duo. So you believe at first, right? And then yeah, so they kind of hit it off as far as the sons go, and Brian just kind of tags along because Lucas is very fond of CJ. Seems like they're getting along. So anyways, they go to this ripoff of Chuck E. Cheese, and Alan Richardson notices that these guys that are hunting him and CJ down, are in the same place. And so Brian just was like, hey, I guess. So he tags along with Alan Richardson, and man, this from here on is when it got super funny. Like Alan Richardson, I feel like he's normally used to like action roles, so seeing him in like something that's very animated and whatnot is definitely something different to see. And I believe he did great, honestly, for I believe his first time role playing something like this. He did really good. All of his punchlines are pretty funny, and just his facial expressions that he uses to insult other people or just turn up the moment. He's very fun in this movie. And so yeah, from this point on, they go to Jeff's house. They kind of just meet up at Jeff's house, and CJ is kind of like, he's a little bit off. And so Brian is like, what does CJ stand for? What does it mean? Because, obviously Jeff's name starts with a J, not a C. So he's trying to piece everything together. And it's just kind of okay, maybe I shouldn't trust this guy. And so Jeff is catching on to him catching on, right? And he's seeing that other people are watching him as well. He's noticing these things that are popping up because he was ex-military, and they go to everything in this movie is. I thought it was hilarious. They changed the name to everything. So like TikTok in this movie is called Dick Doc, and then if you look in the background, there's Dollarama instead of Dollar Tree, and they changed the name from Chuck E. Cheese to Bucky Cheese or something. Ch- Chucky, no, I think it's Bucky Cheese. So from this point on, the action just takes off, right? So they're going on a car chase. So many funny moments with using music, and the Mama Mafia catches up to Brian and Jeff because Brian is posted on the billboard as a Amber Alert for taking children or taking the two kids, and so the Mama Mafia sees him on the highway. They're all driving these Honda Odysseys, and the Mama Mafia is trying to corner in Jeff's character and Brian's character and take them off the road. But then her son, Isla Fisher's son, is using the taser. She's like, "Hey, use your Fortnite skills to use," and tries to shoot Jeff in the in the driver's seat. And then Jeff does a little move, and then the taser shoots Isla Fisher, and she pretty much just twitches and then falls off the road. So that moment was hilarious for me. And so yeah, it's just a bunch of moments like that, super funny, like back to back to back. At least for me, in this movie. And then we get to the end, towards the end, where Brian is being manipulated by the evil character, which is Simon Maddox. He's played by Alan Tudyk. I forgot to say his name, but he's played by him. And so they're using his wife, Lucas's mom, to pretty much give Brian to rat out Jeff. And it works because CJ is given off to Simon Maddox, which, as you go throughout the movie, you'll see that CJ is pretty much a robot and a military grade weapon that's been produced by Simon Maddox, guy responsible for making CJ into a robotic machine, like a military grade machine used from Alan Richardson, aka Jeff's DNA. But yeah, so they're trying to capture CJ so that way the military is able to use him in like different missions and whatnot. But he's taken from the DNA of Jeff. And so Brian hands off CJ to Simon Maddox. Simon Maddox keeps CJ for a little bit, right? And then this whole movie, Lucas has a jacket with a GPS locator and hands the jacket to CJ and is like, "Hey, you're my friend. I love you." He gives him a hug, and then they use the GPS in the jacket to track down CJ and Brian. And I love how they didn't separate Brian and Jeff, because I feel like in movies like this they always have a something big happen where it separates them, and then all of a sudden, they come back together. Because sometimes for me, that's like that doesn't happen all the time. Just because somebody gets into it in that moment doesn't mean that they're gonna just walk off and not help the person or not see it from their perspective. So I like how they kept Brian and Jeff in here in the same moment. It's like, hey, yes, sorry, Jeff, I made a mistake, but now let's go do something about it. So Brian and Jeff make their way to this compound where it's like a million CJs, and they're running away from the CJs, trying to get away, fighting them off, and then they end up finding the secret area where CJ is kept. Now this movie looks like it was shot like I don't know where, but it just looked like it was shot in a warehouse or something like that. Like they just chose a random warehouse off the street and was like, "Hey, let's just set up some barriers and call it a day." And so yeah, that's pretty much how the the set pieces were made. It seems like, but it was really entertaining for me. I knew what I was getting into when I watched it or when I started it. Yeah, so towards the end, you get the message that Brian sees himself as being a great dad, and Lucas tells him, "Hey, you're a great dad. I love you. You don't have to be the best at everything. You don't have to be Jeff. You don't have to be this. You don't have to be that. You just have to be my dad." And I thought that was a really sweet moment, and that pretty much wraps up the movie with Brian and Jeff actually becoming best friends because Brian wasn't really fond of Jeff throughout the whole movie. Most times it's the cool guy like Alan Richardson that doesn't want to be friends with the loser, and but it's more like the loser didn't want to be friends with the cool guy, and so I like how that was a good twist on a lot of things. So for me, it kept it fresh and wasn't something that was redone all the time. For me, I give this movie a 7 out of 10. I think the only thing for me that holds back is I want to say the CGI, some of the acting, and just a lot of the plot holes, if I'm being real. But I knew what I was getting into when I started the movie. And sometimes watching movies, you got to put your mind in that headspace instead of always being so critical of movies. Just enjoy them because it's a lot of work being put into them. So that's how I look at movies whenever I do watch them. Depending on what budget they have, and like, okay, it's like, bro, you got all this money, you could do a lot better. So that's where it's like, can't give you no slack on that. But this movie was solid. Playdate for me, 7 out of 10. I recommend it, and it's straight to streaming on Prime Video. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.